Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the show today. It is a fabulously, beautifully gloomy day here. Rainy, a little cold. That's all right. I'm with friends, and I got a hot cup of coffee, just made, quite fresh.
Mm.
That's always good. But nevertheless, how are you doing, dude? It's like I said, quite a gloomy day. Although the sun's trying, it's trying.
Well, it's snowing here,
Nice.
so yeah, not really because I have a horrendous cold.
Oh, that sucks.
Yep,
Well, lots of medicine,
yep.
drugs.
Oh, I've been taking it. I've been
Yeah.
taking it.
Well, I mean, it's pretty normal. Snow in March isn't weird. Shit, I've had snow in June.
Yeah, no, it's not abnormal. It was just really, really nice last week and right back to winter.
Yeah, yeah, it's not weird. But listening to the news, oh my God, the world is ending. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, how old are you? Where are you coming from? Where have you been? I don't know. Well, they got
Well,
in
the
there.
good news is, Chester, is
Mm,
two American banks have collapsed, so
nice.
that's always a good sign. You know.
Yeah, they'll get bailed out.
Oh, of course they will. And
Hmm.
and the people who lose their homes and everything else in this process will get nothing like
Oh,
they
of
did
course
last
not.
time.
No,
And
screw
then
those
people will again
peons.
complain and demand change, and they'll say we're going to do better this time, and
Hmm,
blah blah
hmm,
blah, and
hmm.
nothing will change
That's right. Yeah.
because the American people need to learn the government and the Federal Reserve especially do not work for us.
No, they
They
do
work for
not. They are a private
corporations.
corporation. People don't seem to understand that.
Yes,
I, they
exactly.
they they confuse everybody putting the word federal on it.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
that's a private company, just so you know. Okay, just
Yeah,
keep that in mind. All of Americans' finances goes through a private company. Mhm.
yeah,
And we did a full on TFT on that. You guys go back
we
and
did.
dig that out wherever the hell that thing is.
Yeah.
I broke that down quite succinctly, I'd say. And we are talking a little bit about American money today. We're going to be getting into that in a roundabout way, or
Uh-oh.
directly related way, or some way.
One
Nevertheless,
of those ways.
one of those ways. But yeah, but I think what they do is all these commentators, they're all about global warming constantly. Every time they have an opportunity, they talk about it, and then when you see it's not real, it confuses them. Yeah.
Yeah,
They can't do two things at once. You ever try to rub your head and belly at the same time and counter directions?
it's not easy.
No, but we used to do it to challenge ourselves. And that's when you're a kid and you don't have many toys, you figure out other ways to play. These days, all they do is sit in front of video games. So
Yep.
sad, so sad. You know, I had access to firecrackers and GI Joes, however.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah.
I also had magnifying glasses,
hmm
so many
hmm
things burned.
hmm who
Um,
was your favorite GI Joe to blow up?
oh, ooh, that's a good question. My favorite one?
Hmm.
I don't remember his name. If I probably saw him, I'd know him. But yeah, there was one I blew up a couple times.
Yeah,
Well, then my
because
parents got wise. They started buying me knockoff ones
yeah,
because they were
smart.
cheaper.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's true. The one I used to, I don't know his name either, but the one I used to love blow up was the one with the Australian hat.
yeah, yeah. Yep,
That guy. Yeah,
yep. I
yeah,
like how you call it the Australian hat. I like that.
yeah. Well,
Right.
it's the Australian hat. Nevertheless, hopefully you're all doing well. I had a very quiet weekend here at home. My wife and my son's back, so my wife was doing a lot of things with him. She's like a bug in a little snug bug in a rug with her boy home. Her hobby is being mom. So
Yep.
Chester eats corn the long way. Okay, I don't
Uh-oh.
know. I don't know how I should respond to that. He's Canadian. Of course, I eat it the long way. That's the way you're supposed to eat it. You meant the short way. Okay. No, that's all right. We'll
Uh,
help them out. They're from Canada. They're kind of like our northern retarded cousin that we have to, give special needs
that's
to.
true.
It's okay.
That's true.
We
No one
got
else
you,
is allowed to
man.
pick on them, though.
Well, that's right. That's our hat. Nobody else's hat.
Yep.
Australia's
Leave our
got
hat
their
alone.
hat. We got our hat, and it, and,
That's a
and
big
it's
hat.
it is a big hat. and it says A, and it likes beer, and it dresses shabbily.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, our northern hat, but they're happy to have it. I mean, they have all that freedom, and they can act like crazy people all they want, because we're going to kick anybody's ass that looks at them in the wrong way.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, they're safe, and yes, I did just make a reference to my tag, Meshugana, and you'll see why.
Mhm.
Anyway, but let's talk about some unrelated stuff before we get into it. They are rewriting everything. Wow. We thought
Everything.
their Tolkien thing was an extreme step. Shit, they're down to James Bond and Goosebumps.
Yep.
Goosebumps.
Yep. These people have to be stopped, Chester, by any
Hmm.
means necessary.
I'm going to go into that today. I'm going to show
Yep.
what's happening behind the scenes. Why is this happening? Because even though we have Scholastic, which is completely progressive and woke crap, of course they're connected directly to the education system in America. This is really coming out of Britain,
Hmm.
and it's affecting everything. And I'm going to explain why that is today. We'll get into that, but that's an issue. We can't, got to rewrite everything. That used to mean, dude, how it wasn't that long ago that these so-called liberals would fight tooth and
Hmm.
nail against such things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Tooth and nail. Now they are the perpetrators of new think. They are the fascists. Yeah, I said it, YouTube. I said it. Fuck off, YouTube. It hasn't even been 15 minutes, YouTube.
Yep.
But whatever, they are just ridiculous people. But nevertheless, let's see what else is going on in the world. Anything good? Hmm,
Not much. No.
not much. Here in
Not
Japan,
much. Well,
things are
one good
nice.
thing. Uh, John Wick 4 is coming out soon.
Yeah, that looks fun.
Yeah.
Looks fun.
If the world survives to then, we'll see. We'll
If it
see.
survives. But here over here in Japan, things are nice, normal. Nothing's really changed. We don't have to deal with any of your nonsense. We've been inflicted with a slight amount of inflation, but hardly any really.
Yep.
We've seen a little increase on some things, but it's not very bad. And it'll go back, I'm sure. But you guys are just absolutely been hammered. What is your inflation rate right now? 60 some percent
Oh, probably. Yeah. It's preposterous, is what
or
it is.
higher?
Uh, they say it's only like 8%,
No
but
bullshit.
that's nonsense. Go
Bullshit.
go buy some noodles. Go back 2 years ago and buy some pasta, and then come to now and tell me it's only
Well, yeah,
8%.
any kind of grain, milk,
Yeah.
eggs, vegetables, fish, meat, every
You know the
essential
things you
whole
need to
food.
eat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's all way
Yeah.
up. Gasoline, of course, is outrageous. Gee, I don't know what's not inflated in the country. There must be something. Maybe it's government spending is finally come in line with the rest of the world, and that's why
Yep.
they say it's only 8%. Because I don't know, but they lie constantly. I mean, I mean, they always do anyway. You understand that my take on politics is they're all a bunch of corrupt assholes, right?
Mhm.
And everyone agrees. We all know this. This is not new, right? But they just don't care that you see it now. That's different, right? That's the
Yeah.
difference. They really don't care. Let's see. Captain Canada says, "Did you watch the World Baseball Classic game, Chester? I heard 30 or so million Japanese watched the last game. Dude, I have had no choice in the matter. Yeah, my wife and son have been watching it every night, so it is on. But I just play my Sims game, because I
Yep.
have this computer sitting. We kind of have like this cozy little entertainment room here slash kitchen, right? That we spend most of our time in actually.
Mhm.
And because even though it's a nice little property, it's still Japanese, so things are small and tight. But it's okay. It's
Yeah.
cozy. And
Yep.
of course, I got a giant TV next to me, and they watching the baseball, so I just sit here and do my Sims in the same room with them. I do
Nice.
like some of the Sims has finally kind of gotten to where it needs to go, and now we're going to be getting a fifth one soon, and we'll be back to waiting for years for them to penny and pinch us into getting a real game. That's all right.
Yeah.
Most of us gave up and went back to Sims 3 anyway, but I've been persistent. Nevertheless, yes, Captain Canada, I have. Okay. So but no, it's okay. I mean, the Japanese are very, very strong, and they've had nothing but easy games, and they're just walking through it. So, they give a little highlights. I guess there's only two teams that are any good. That's Japan and America. Which what's new? I mean, I get what they're doing with it, and this isn't very old. They've only doing it a short time. This WBC, but yeah, I get it. Try to get more interest around the world in baseball and build up baseball. Yeah, why not? Why not? I'm not a baseball fan, but for those who are, cool. The more, the merrier, right? But
Mm.
the Japanese are absolutely obsessed with Otani. He's the best thing ever, 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 ever. He gets up and he gets a home run or he does something. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, Otani! Oh my God!" And it's like they're winning 10-0. His home run means
Yep.
nothing.
Yep.
It has no effect upon the game. It's just cool. He hit a home run. But I mean, yeah, the Japanese are obsessed, dude. But that's all right. They like baseball and they're good at it. So rock on, dude.
Yeah.
You been watching it?
No. 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 I don't care about sports at all anymore.
Yeah,
At all.
yeah. Unfortunately,
They've killed any
they've ruined it.
desire I had to watch sports with all their nonsense.
They have. That is true. I don't watch much sport anymore either. But to be fair, I'm pretty busy with stuff I got, and my free time is spent either here or for me late night. For you guys, it's super early morning. But I just if I'm not working, I just play my either ESO or Sims. Easy enough, good enough. So I do like my Sims though. I'm playing that a lot. What game do you play a lot?
Oh, it varies. I was playing the Hogwarts game,
Mm,
or the Wizard game, as we all call it. Um, Otherwise, I haven't been playing much lately. I've been sick, so I've been just being
no,
sick.
I see.
Yeah.
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 Well, I finally bit because they had a big sale here, and I bought a bunch of past expansions I hadn't bought yet. So I got new cities and new things to play in The Sims, new things like lifestyle stuff and clubs, and it's neat. They penny pinch the hell out of you, and they don't, and then they put in the least amount of effort. I mean, it's pretty infuriating, really.
Mm.
Whereas a hungry company would do much more, which they used to be. If you go back, Sims 2, some say is the best one, although I'm probably more. I like Sims 3. Probably the best, but they're just not hungry anymore. Is the problem? Although Paradox, who is I love like all their games. I've been playing Paradox since. Ooh, I don't know. I know I played Surviving Mars, and I've played a whole bunch of other stuff they've made. But anyway, they have a new thing coming out in 7 days. They're having like a launch discussion show about it.
Yeah.
Life by You, I think is what it's called, and it looks just like a straight-on competitor to The Sims. Sweet,
Hmm. Lovely.
yeah. I don't know why I'm so enamored with it, but I really do like trying the challenges and trying to, because the game is a pain in the ass. I mean, it is. It's not easy if you do it right. I mean, you can cheat, but if you do it right, the thing is a pain in the ass. But we're not here to talk about the
Yes.
games I like. So anyway, so let's go ahead and get right into it. All righty. Let me do this. We got some doozies today, just so you know. Okay.
Some doozies.
I might rant. It's possible.
Uh-oh.
It is
Ranting inbound.
probable. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, this one kind of sucks. That's really young.
Yeah, it's
Saving Private
very young.
Ryan actor Tom Sizemore
Hmm.
dead at 61 following a brain aneurysm.
Hmm.
Man, that's the scary stuff, man. People get scared of the wrong things. That's something you should be afraid of, 'cause that can happen at any time to
And
anyone,
boom, gone. Yeah,
and you're just
instant.
gone.
Yeah, Junko's father's best friend died, well, when I first came over here 30 years ago, similar age, and he died of an aneurysm just out of nowhere while taking a shower.
Yep.
Gone. But yeah, that's way too young for Tom. He didn't even get into his late 70s, 80s. I mean, that's kind of acceptable, right? But Jesus,
Yeah.
60. But it happens. I like Tom Sizemore. I've enjoyed many of his stuff. He's a good character actor. He's not the dude that stands out and is the best of the best thing, but he's a great character actor. Of course, he's in Saving Private Ryan, but he's done tons of stuff. And I'm not going to get into all of the reasoning behind it or whatever. It's just an aneurysm. Good enough. I like the guy. He was a fun actor. Didn't make a lot of noise. He was just a good character actor, and safe
Yeah,
journey, sir. And condolences to his family and car, of course. But yeah, it sucks, man.
it does.
Yeah,
That's what got my grandpa. He
yeah.
was he was older though, but that's what got him.
Well, my grandfather was older too, but heart attacks what got him. But I didn't know until I was older. But he had had actually hundreds of heart attacks.
Oh my.
Yeah, and it finally one got him. And that
Who
seems
used
like
to die?
excessive.
Yeah.
Hundreds,
A
not
man
a
literally too
few.
angry to die. Is that what you're telling
Yeah,
me?
maybe he is fisherman. Those guys don't mess around. But
That's true.
yeah, no, something gets you in the end. Everything, you always die. You always die alone. I mean, it's just the reality of it, and it
The
gets all of us.
Reaper will win.
He will. He will. He will. And I love the this. I won't get distracted. All right. Moving on. But yeah, it is does suck. He's a cool actor, and more for his family than anything. That's way too young, dude. Let's get into it. Here we go.
No game, no life. Creator fires back after Western reader criticizes series' lack of dark-skinned characters.
Okay,
Can can I just ask a question?
you
Why
could,
does every single thing have to have dark-skinned people in it?
because it's been
I'm not over here
decreed.
complaining there's not enough white people in the Black Panther movies. I don't care. I think that's fine. It's set in Africa.
You
Makes
would be
sense.
racist anyway if you said so.
Yeah.
But
Well,
well, the response is really what I think the reason why I put this up, right? Because you're trying to intimidate Japanese people into following your woke crap.
yeah,
It ain't gonna happen, buddy. They don't care. Now, this is talking about specifically a different guy, but of course, this is talking about Yu Kamiya. But Yoshi P also came under some of this nonsense here recently, and they both had very similar responses. No, no. And
yeah,
in this one particular, you had someone complaining that you have your story is set in Europe, and there were black people in Europe at that time. And he said, well, why aren't there black people in your thing? And he says, well, first of all, it's not Europe; it's a fantasy world. Second of all, did Europe have elves and dwarves as well? Because this does.
yes,
But you're not going to get them to do it. They don't care. If they want to put a black person in a character in their thing, they will. If they don't, they won't. They're
right,
telling a story they want to tell, and it will have whatever it has. And they're not going to change shit for you. Now we see everybody else is in the West, but the Japanese aren't. And the reason that it will not change is that here in Japan, a creation is something that is done by an individual, right? They do not understand the concept of, like I had mentioned last time, of Spider-Man being written and drawn by someone other than Ditko and Stan Lee, right? They can't understand that. There are singular creators, often singular artists. When it gets picked up by an anime studio, of course, there's a huge team of people making that happen inside of the company that has been, uh, um, you know, contracted to do so, but their job is to take it and put it directly. They do not interpret, they do not give their opinion. It is a direct translation, right? That is
yeah,
their job, and that is the how Japan works. And because of that, you're never going to get this across the board control of what is the right think, right? It can't
mm,
happen because their creative process is outside of the bounds of that. But and good on you for this because no, go away. And
yeah,
he responds very clearly that this is not a real world; it's a fantasy world, and we have what we want in it. I don't know this particular thing, but it's that's not a human. Mhm. Not a
mm,
human. So
yeah,
But whatever. We just see more and more of this, and the Japanese, they keep pushing, particularly Japanese, because they're the ones that are not on board at all. They don't bother with the Chinese because, well, that you're not allowed to, and two, the Chinese literally would probably, send a cyber virus at you or something. The
Mhm.
Koreans don't come under this scrutiny for some reason. I don't know why. How about what about the Mexicans and Central Americans, South Americans? They make comics and do stuff too. They make various stuff, and what about their telenovela stuff? Those things
Mhm.
are ridiculous. They don't conform. How come we're not hearing noise? Why aren't you doing this, Mexico? Of course, not to mention the fact that we have American politicians who really literally want to go to war with Mexico right now. Have you heard that?
I have.
Are you serious? Why would we waste the personnel? It's eating itself.
That's
Just,
true.
build a wall.
Well, that's racist, you see. But
Okay.
blowing them up, that's fine.
I guess. But they really keep pushing on the Japanese hard, right? Of all people, and of course, every time they do, the Japanese either don't respond or they respond with a no politely. Of course, they're very polite people, and that's why you seeing people groups like Crunchyroll and other stuff like that. They're just mistranslating it. They're translating it themselves into their wants, right?
Mm.
And of course, this is irritating the Japanese creators. Same thing we talked about with the books. What right do you have to rewrite anything from Goosebumps or James Bond or Tolkien or C.S. Lewis or all the stuff that's on the chopping block? What right do you have to touch it? If you want to be a jerk and go ahead and ban it because you think it's way too insensitive for your sensitive little self, go right ahead. But don't you rewrite it, especially while
Yes.
these really poor writers doing the rewriting. Because they've put some
Yeah.
examples up on the Lotus Eaters, which is Sargon of Akkad's channel, right? Of the rewrites, and my God, they're bad. They're really bad, and it's because they're not good writers,
Right.
right? They're not good at what they do. But this makes me happy that the Japanese don't care, especially Yoshi P coming under so much slack. Flack. I mean, that guy, he's done so many great things with. He's with
Yes.
Square Enix, right? Final
Mhm.
Fantasy stuff and things like that. He's such a great job. He's the guy who took the burden upon himself of completely remaking Final Fantasy 14, the MMO, right? That's
And quite
Yoshi P,
literally
right?
saving it,
And saving
resurrecting
it,
it.
saving Square Enix, I'd say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
Especially since Final Fantasy 15 was nowhere near what they needed it to be.
no, no, they do have a new one coming out, and people, I've seen some trailers, and we'll see. But it is a little long in the tooth, to be fair. That series,
Yep.
but we'll see how they do. But anyway, not a big deal. I just like to see the fact that the Japanese are not budging, and that's kind of how they are. I mean, I've said this before. I've lived in Asia, most of my adult life, right? And I can sum up the Asians really, really well in very simple stereotypes. The Japanese are hard-headed. That's
Yeah.
just what they are. They're stubborn. The Koreans are nothing but a bunch of children. They're just very childish in the things they do. The Chinese always lie, always. And it's matter of fact, culturally, they think you're the fool if you fall for it, right? If we want to go into Southeast Asia, which we have different names for countries now, but they're all the same culture. Just call it Siam, right?
Yeah.
They are laid back, relaxed, do as you will, cause no harm. They're just chill. The ultimate chilled hippies is really what they are, right? And the Filipinos are just out their damn mind. That was
Yeah.
succinct, I think. They're out, and I don't blame them. I mean, their DNA is such a mess. They've been mixed over so many damn times. I mean, it's hard to even tell what they are. I'm assuming they have a lot of bipolarism. Boy, I'm gonna get attacked for that. Anyway, let's move on to unless you have anything to add. This is just kind of a personal joy for
No,
me.
no, it's dumb, and it's thankfully so far not working on the Japanese, but we'll see because they're
No,
trying.
it won't. It won't work in the long run because the other problem they have is the Japanese are the ones that are making the boku money, right? Because
Yep.
of what the Western comic book companies are doing and cartoon companies and movie companies. The Japanese do their thing. They're horrible at live action. They're I mean god awful, right? But their manga and their anime is really good. That's where all their energy and money goes, and they're not going to change that. They're making money. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Japanese live by this motto, dude. Anyway, let's move on to kind of normal news here into what I'm kind of talking about today.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hang on, my
Mm,
Discord's having an aneurysm. Animal Man series rumored to be in development for James Gunn's DCU.
with Grant Morrison. Yeah,
I don't
Augustine,
trust it.
you might have wanted to extend that headline just a little bit. Um, yeah, I like Grant's writing. I've enjoyed it when he had oversight. When he doesn't have oversight, his gayness just overwhelms him, right? And his need
Mm,
to preach at the pulpit of the forever eternally important gayness. And fair enough, it's his thing, it's his life, it's what he sees. I've never seen him as being mean spirited. He's not, right? Where a lot of
mm,
them today are quite mean spirited, which is really the problem, right? So I don't have no problem with that whatsoever. And the run that Morrison did on Animal Man did take a kind of lame character and make him interesting. Let's be fair. But I this concerns me on multiple levels. That level, and the other level is another level is this one. And the Animal Man series that Morrison did is very adult. This is for through Vertigo. It is DC, but it was done through Vertigo. It's very adult and intended to be so. It's not for kids, right? It's not for kids. It's a very adult run. Deals with a lot of adult subject matter, which in a way is cool. But Grant Morrison and his activist needs combined with
mm.
James Gunn's perversion. I don't know, dude.
I'm telling you, I've been saying it since they brought Gunn on. This is going to be worse than the MCU. It's going to be so bad. We might get one or two good movies or something right out of the gate, but then they're not going to be able to help themselves. And he's going to bring in a bunch of people who are going to be all about the message.
Hmm.
And that ship has long since sailed. We have whole banks going under because they were busy chasing woke points instead of doing
That's
their
true.
job.
That's true.
That is done. It's over, and anybody who tries to chase it with these properties, especially, is going to shoot themselves in the foot. I mean, all last year, anything with even a hint of wokeness, quote unquote, anything with even a whiff of it, bombed, got
Yeah, no,
crushed.
people have come to their saturation on that. That's for sure. But
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying. Now, we did talk a little bit about there has been a lot of rumors going around that this whole thing with Discovery buying Warner Brothers and Zaslav coming and cutting is all about trying to make it sellable. And therefore, if another company like, say, Apple or someone else buys it, more than likely they'll clean house and restructure anyway. So
yeah,
this might all be for naught. We have mentioned that. We don't know the reality, but we've mentioned it. Um, but the thing with Gunn is I do enjoy his movies. They're fun. He knows how to make good movies. I mean, this guy learned in the trenches. He's coming up through trauma, right? I mean, he knows how to make a penny stretch. He knows how to do the job. But he is perverse, though. He's very perverted. And if you go watch Peacemaker, it's just ridiculously perverted. I mean, just look at the things that he's put on set lying around that you might not have noticed. Go back and watch it and look at the shit he's put in the background, right? He's very perverted. It's very perverse. Why would you be riding around in a recreational vehicle, an RV, with a bunch of people who just are having a great old rock and roll time because they just murdered a bunch of things in the most bloody way, which, I get the comedy, and have a dildo on the dashboard? Why would you do that? Who's that for? Which member of the team is that for? Who put it there? And they're all over the place. Sexual toys are all in many scenes throughout that I'm sure people missed.
Probably.
Yeah, because they're not paying it because it's just lying. It's part of the clutter, the scatter to make it look like a real place. But why would
Hmm.
those things be there? I mean, I know that women use toys. I get this.
Yeah.
It is very much a woman thing, a certain type of woman anyway. But and I get it. But do they leave it just sitting on the dining room table?
Apparently. Apparently, in
Apparently,
James Gunn's world, they do.
they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this concerns me with him. And then Morrison's, particular, you know, uh, uh, needs. Um, this could be radically out of control, dude. This could be radically out of control. This could take Peacemaker to a truly X-rated, because Animal Man lends himself to it, right?
Yeah.
Dude, it's a shame because I'd like to see a good Animal Man. It would be fun, but I'm really concerned.
It's
And of
gonna be
course
bad. I'm telling you, man.
yeah,
I've been saying it. It's gonna be bad.
and
And then everybody's gonna see what I've been saying, that James Gunn is massively overrated.
well,
Massively.
I'm not going to take away his ability to do things. He has talent to make a movie. He can do it well. I'm not going to take it away. The simple fact of the matter is, the dude is, and I understand everyone has dark thoughts, sexual thoughts. It's a normal human thing to have that, but it's things that we keep in private, right? We don't bring it into the world. It's not proper etiquette to do so. But for someone like James Gunn, he does, right? He lives in a world where it's okay to be absolutely degenerate on a daily basis. And it's not like I don't understand it. Back when I was a young man, young man, I lived in the '80s and early '90s, and the whole culture was about debauchery. Just, I mean, it was all about going out, party, getting drunk, getting laid if you got lucky, and then wake up, do it again, do it again, do it again. That's all life was back in those days. How lucky we were to live in such affluence. But that's what reality was. And I get that. But James, you're my age. When are you going to grow up, buddy? I mean, that's
Never, obviously.
obviously not. But I don't know. I don't have anything else to say other than, oh, man, I would love this, but I know what I'm going to get from those two. And it's going to be on HBO Max, and it's going to have an M rating. Oh my God, dude. Oh,
Yep.
all right, all right. Yeah, dead baby jokes. But I mean, to be fair, Dave, there are situations that a dead baby joke is funny. There are. Laughing at the macabre and the dark and the terrifying is really often the best way to deal with it. There are times, but the problem is James Gunn and people like him don't know the timing of it. They don't understand the situation of it, right? And now they've got in their heads that we're all wrong. We need to be brought on forcibly brought on to their thinking. This is the problem, right? Uh,
So, yeah, James Gunn is a scumbag.
yeah, no, I never disagreed with that. I just will not take away his skill because he does have skill.
I will, because I don't give pedophiles anything but the rope they deserve. And he's a pedophile.
All righty,
And no one can convince me otherwise.
fair enough. Moving on, I guess, but that's just a shame, dude. Because I don't know how many people. Animal Man is a bit obscure. I get that, Animal Man is a really good story. It's not actually a superhero story, really. It's more of the burden of being a superhero, really. It's different. And Animal Man could be great if done properly, but it's got to have that yuck yuck, type of humor from James Gunn. It's not going to be serious. I don't know. It's no, next. Speaking of James Gunn,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. James Gunn defends the race swapping of the High Evolutionary in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 by accusing fans of having racist presumptions. Oh, have we? Oh, it's like sweet, sweet violin music to my ears. Oh,
well,
because I know what's coming, Chester. And once these movies come out, once it all happens, I know what I get to hear you say to me, and I'm just anticipating it.
mhm, mhm,
Oh,
mhm, mhm, mhm.
oh.
I haven't disagreed with you yet. So I have nothing to apologize for. Now with this right here, we know Disney was the main driver behind you must have what was the word POCs in your movies? Of course, that seems to
Yeah.
translate into only blacks. But what?
Yes.
Okay, so all right then. We know Disney's the one pushing that, so he has no choice in the matter. But instead of just saying, well, I have to have a certain number of minorities in it, and I just thought this guy's a good actor, and I thought it was a good replacement for it. It's just being honest, saying I don't have a choice, I got to do this. It's Disney's rule because we all know it is. It's
Yeah.
it's not hidden. It's they actually put out a mission statement and a company wide letter on letterhead and said it to everybody. All he had to do was say, "Yeah, I know. I had to find somewhere to put a black person in, and I thought this is a good actor for the role." Done. Right? Done. That's all he had to say, and we'd be like, "Yep, we get you." Right? But no, he says, "Nuh-uh, I hired him because he was the best actor for the role." Well, how come you didn't hire Henry Cavill then?
Uh huh.
Is there someone else better for the role of Superman?
Walking the planet of Earth? Probably not.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. So I mean, he's full of shit. But it's dumb, knee jerk reaction. James, you should have just simply said, "This is Disney's rule. I'm just doing what I have to. I thought this guy was good for the part." It would have been the best answer, and it when we would have shut up, right?
Yep.
But he didn't do that. So I thought I would take a moment to talk a little bit about the High Evolutionary, if I may. Because I know for unless you're a real comic book person, you don't know who he is, and that's fine. You don't
Right.
have to know who he is, but comic book dudes, we know who he is, right? So I thought I'd talk about him a little bit. Now, the High Evolutionary, I just bring up this picture. This is his suit that he wears, and I'll give you a little breakdown. He's an Englishman, therefore white guy. He's actually a ginger. Poor fella.
Hmm.
But poor little guy. But basically, way, way back, he was into nuclear science and genetics at a university in England. And he's studying away, and he's very smart. He's very good at it. And he started experimenting on mice and rats in his mother's basement. And
Mm.
he put out some papers and stuff, and he got kicked out of university because they said he was too single-minded, right? His focus was only on one thing, and they were sick of him, and they kicked him out. But some mysterious guy, I think it was Thaddeus. I can't remember, but a mysterious fellow gave him some scientific information that kind of filled in all the holes that he had for his understanding of biology and genetics. And he started applying it, and he started becoming really good at it and making some successful things. But he found that uh, he made one thing successfully, and the local people hunted down and killed it. And he realized that, well, he can't, human society can't deal with what he's trying to do, so he needed a more secluded place. He ends up going to America and ends up making a deal with Mr. and Mrs. Drew, and working at an old it's not America, sorry, Europe, in this what's it called, Transasia or Transnasia or wherever they call it. It's Moldovia. Let's be fair, but in the
Mm.
mountains there, and in Wundagore Mountain, and in underneath that mountain there was like an old German base, World War II German base, and they converted it into a laboratory. And in truth, Wundagore Mountain in Marvel comic books has been used for all kinds of things. Chthon, the being that was possessing Scarlet Witch, which made her so powerful, and ended up bringing upon her, murder of all the mutants, is actually buried under there as well. So it's a very ancient site that has been used for a long time. But anyway, they started working with the Drews, and yes, Jessica Drew's parents. And whilst working on the site, they and building up the laboratory, because her parents are scientists as well, they found a bunch of uranium and they started selling it. But the problem was they didn't do it in a good way, even though it made them a lot of money, and they started poisoning the land. Thus, Jessica became poisoned, thus, the entire arc of how she became Spider Woman, right? But that I'm not going there, I'm sticking with him. He also became poisoned. That's why he wears this suit, right? There's a
Hmm.
reason he has a suit on. It's not just for because it looks cool for a comic artist to draw it. They actually, back in those days, they cared about, a little thing called continuity. I mean, how dare they, Thundero? Even. Uh, how dare they? But anyway, he went on and on doing his things, and he ended up working with Nathaniel Essex, who of course is Mr. Sinister, even though he didn't know who he was at the time. But Mr. Sinister saw his genius, and of course he's a geneticist as well. He started working with him in that way. He ended up finding that he can't stay on Earth because these heroes keep attacking him, and all he's doing is trying to evolve humanity. He's one of those guys that's not a bad guy, but he's not really. And he created like a very primitive form of a alternate Earth. Then it brought in Galactus. It brought in the Beyonder. I mean, it goes deep. They're still using him. I'm not going to get into all of it. But the thing is, it's a British scientist, an Englishman, who it doesn't know where the limit is. When should science step back and say maybe we can, but maybe we shouldn't? That's who he is. He's that guy that never steps back. Thus, he's a villain, but he's not really villainous per se, right? He's also behind a lot of supervillains because he needs always looking for money and funding to do his research. So he's responsible for a lot of supervillains getting their powers. It's just a way for him to make money, etc., etc. With all that said, does it matter what his race is? Really?
Does to them,
Yeah, it does to them. But he is an English guy, like I said, a redhead originally. Although you hardly ever see him out of a suit, and when you do, he's an old man by that time. And he's gray haired. And they always kind of paint him up a little darker anyway, which I don't understand why. So they've been kind of darkening him for quite a while, to be fair. I don't really care so much about that, but they do.
yes,
This is their obsession, not ours.
yes, and it's
Um,
always seems to be Reddit, which is
Yeah.
weird.
Your mic is being very strange.
It is. What's it doing?
I don't know. You sound like you're very far and you're in 1932.
Oh, I have no idea.
Oh, there it is. Now it's working. Okay. It was bugging itself. Now it's working. So I don't know this actor. Maybe he's a good actor. Maybe he is perfect for the role. This is the wrong response from James Gunn, though. All he had to do was simply say that's Disney's rule. Because I don't know, there are people who would get upset with this just because it's another race swap and we're sick of it, but it doesn't really matter who he is, to be honest with you. But especially the fact that he should have that helmet on all the time anyway. We shouldn't be seeing his face at all. We shouldn't,
Yep.
right? Because the dude's trying to not die, right? But
Right.
nevertheless, it's just another one of James Gunn's poor responses. This guy, just like so many of the rest of them, they just respond poorly, and it's why he has a perfect excuse, Thunder.
Hmm.
It's Disney's rule. End of conversation.
Yep. But that just tells me he agrees with Disney's rule.
Oh, I
He's
bet he
on
does.
board.
Clearly he does. He is a woke tard. It's clear he is, dude. Is he as bad as Mark Ruffalo? I don't think so. But Mark Ruffalo clearly needs to get laid, or I think James
At
Gunn
some
doesn't
point in his
have
life.
problems in that department. Well, Mark Ruffalo, have you ever seen anyone act more like a virginal Karen than Mark Ruffalo?
No.
I mean,
He
honestly, let's be
screams of it.
fair. He screams of it. He screams of it. He's just this dainty little sensitive pearl clutching nonsense. James Gunn is not that. He's a pervert. We've already explained that. But anyway, so nonsense where we didn't need it. All he had to do was say, all James had to do was say, yeah, well, it's Disney's rule, and I went and found the best actor I could. I like this guy. I think you'll like him too. Done, right? And maybe we
Yeah.
will. And because he's such an obscure character that most people don't know, I don't think it would have upset many people. I mean, keep in mind, Nick Fury's a white guy too. But does anyone think that Samuel L. Jackson isn't the best choice? No. There was no hype behind it. It just did it. And it was like, oh, yeah, he's cool, right? They didn't need noise, right? And I know some people who are really into comics who are like, what the hell is he doing with on a Guardians of the Galaxy movie? I agree. You're right. But let's also not forget that his very first appearance was in a Thor comic, however. So traditionally we wouldn't place him with the Guardians at all. He would be more, with the early on the Fantastic Four, and then of course a lot of X Men stuff, because he's a geneticist connected to Nathaniel Essex, and thus the X Men, right? So that's most people would connect him to the X Men, but not the Guardians of the Galaxy at all. Although Thor's on the
Mm.
boat, right? So maybe that's what he's doing, and maybe they are thinking over there. Now James is gone, so who knows? But maybe Marvel, because we keep asking, how are they going to put the X Men in here? How are they going to bring the X Men in? Maybe this is it. Maybe.
They had the perfect way to do it, and for whatever reason, they just didn't. They teased it, they set it up perfectly, and then they just didn't do it with the reverse House of M. I
Yeah.
don't know
No.
why.
Yeah.
Probably because they're not ready. And if they would have done it then, they would have had like huge logistical problems with the rest of their
Yeah.
movies.
But their writers aren't good, and they don't do their research, dude. They don't know. I'm
Well, here's the
sure.
crazy thing is their actress did.
Yeah,
Olsen did. She
she
went and
did.
read it. She even said it's her favorite story.
She did her
She
work.
she she was like,
Good for
I
her.
hope we're gonna do it. Blah 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 blah.
Hmm.
It was right there. They
Yeah.
gave them the children. They did all of the stuff they needed to do, and then they just didn't do it.
Yeah, no, it is weird choice because it would have been the smart way to introduce it. But like I
Yep.
said, they're very inept and they don't do their research. Because I'm sure they grabbed up the Scarlet Witch because look, it's a female, and that's it.
Yep.
They clearly didn't do any research in the fact that she's a Maximoff. No one is there's zero connection to Magneto, even though that's his kid, right?
Yep. Yep.
That I mean,
Well,
what?
the solution it's so easy too. The way they had set it up, where she loses her kids at the end of WandaVision, and then they had her as basically the main character of the Doctor Strange movie. They even called that movie. They labeled it Multiverse of Madness, which spells mom.
Yes.
There's M's everywhere. So I think they were planning on doing it, and for whatever reason, they just didn't. Because we know that movie got reshot a bunch. They had a lot of changes. So did the show, the WandaVision show. So
Hmm.
I don't know if COVID messed up the plan because they had to move their timetable back or
No,
what.
no,
I
I
have
doubt
no
it.
idea.
No.
But I genuinely believe that they were going to do it because they just
Infighting.
had everything set up perfectly for it with all the M symbolism and
Yeah.
the her whole storyline. It was just there. And then nothing. She just kills herself at the end of that movie, and that's it. That's the end of that movie.
Well, they can bring her back,
Dumb.
I'm sure. But whatever. Moving on, because this is kind of irrelevant, really, because he's done at Marvel, and all signs point toward the fact that there's not anything more coming out of this anyway. Right? Now, another connection that, for those who are wondering why is he with the Guardians of the Galaxy, because I know some people are like, he doesn't belong there. Uh, Adam Warlock.
Yeah.
High evolutionary kind of took Adam Warlock under his wing, adopted him in a way. Well, really, I guess he did adopt him straight up. And it's the high evolutionary that gave him the soul gem. But
Yep.
now, of course, we're well past that. We didn't put Adam Warlock in the story like we should have, even though Gunn clearly wanted to. But I think that's
Mhm.
why he's here, because we are getting Adam Warlock in this movie, and that's why Evolutionary's here. So, ha! I am a nerd too. But let's wrap all of this kind of complaining, finger pointing, changing the stories, agenda stuff. Let's wrap this all up into the man himself.
Steven Spielberg smears America with anti-Semitism accusation. Wait a minute. I
No,
don't even need to see what he said or the context of it. Probably, probably the most successful director of all time.
yeah,
At least the most prolific in far as everybody knows him. He for a very long time, especially most of our lives, he was the man when it
he
came
is
to
the man.
movies.
Yeah,
Um, named Spielberg,
yeah,
obviously a Jewish man, like there's no
hmm
doubt. Look, I mean, look at him.
yeah.
How what you have no legs to stand on, mister. America made you.
Well,
You think you would be able to be this great director in Europe?
yeah. Well, and he's on the Colbert Show, basically blaming all Americans for being anti-Semitic, and of course, very not directly but indirectly blaming Trump. Now, Trump gets blamed for a lot of shit, even though none of it's true. And the things that he actually does, they don't call him on, which is weird. But
It's weird.
not only have I never heard him be anti-woman, especially seeing as the guy has had more women working for him than any other rich guy.
Yep,
Not only is he not anti POC, he loves them. He enjoys their culture. He's very positive. He did more for them in his 4 years than Obama did in his eight, far more,
yep.
right? Et cetera, et cetera. So all of these slurs are weird. But anti-Semitism from Trump? When? Where? How?
I
Name
mean,
one
his daughter
example.
married a Jew. I
Yeah,
don't. His
he's
grandchildren. His daughter converted to Judaism, so
yeah,
technically his grandchildren are Jewish.
he's the president that
Um,
finally went and said, no, we're putting our embassy here. He's the guy
yep,
who did in Israel, right? What are you
yep,
talking about? Are you out of your damn mind? I understand you all have this TDS and you can't stand the guy, but this is ridiculous, Stephen. It is
yep,
ridiculous. He is one of we have lots of American pro Israel presidents. We've had many. Trump is on the top of the list, dude.
yep.
It's insane. But
To the point
therefore,
that they made coins minted in his visage over
mhm,
there because they love him so much because he did so much for Israel. But
yeah,
he hates Jews though, secretly.
it's
You said,
ridiculous. But let me
yeah,
give you a little bit of primer on something because I'm going to make a statement. Smears America
uh,
for anti-Semitism. America is Jewish.
yep,
Let me explain why. We get a lot of people like to make the joke about Hollywood is controlled by Jews, which it is.
hmm
But why
hmm
is it? Let's
and
talk
China.
about this. Well, sure, but let's talk. That's a recent thing. Let's
Yep,
talk about it for a second. Let's take a minute. All right. Now, from day one, the powerful, Jewish banking lobby has had influence in America. They have
hmm
influence everywhere because they're radically wealthy and money talks, dude. Plain and simple.
yes,
So yes, but I put that aside. Let's not talk about these ultra mega rich bankers. Let's talk about the normal Jewish person. Right now, I'm not going to go into history that the Europeans, who are mainly the ones that are in America, aren't actual Jews. They're different. Maybe they're one of the tribes, but they're not the tribe of Judah. Hey, I'm not going to get into that. All right.
hmm
They identify as Jews. They're raised as Jews. They're culturally Jews. Let's talk about these normal people. Now, what happened? Well, America has had many, many waves of migration, right? And we've had, excuse me, many waves of immigration. and a few waves of migration. The migration is mainly coming from the south because they can literally migrate, right? But immigration, and America was the place. Europe was in trouble. The old world was kind of collapsing, and people wanted to come to America for this new opportunity, new land, and immigrants flooded in, right? And especially after World War I, right? World War I was devastating to the Europeans, which was its intent. That would be a TFT all on its own. But after that, we had huge waves. We had Germans coming in, we had Poles, we had Italians, of course, a very famous one, Irish, etc. Many, many, many migrant or immigrant waves coming in. And amongst those were Jews every time, right? Especially when Russia started collapsing, they fled there because, well, they saw the writing on the wall, which is a Jewish idiom, by the way. Anyway, as are most every American idiom, which I'm going to get into. So what happened? They come in. Where do they come in? Ellis Island, and they go into New York City. Right now, many of these migrant groups end up moving out in mass to other places. The Germans did it. The Poles went up into Wisconsin, Michigan, stuff like that, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of these groups do migrate out, and the Jews did to a point. But at first, they stayed in New York. And of course, you have some that got into using their skills they already have. A lot of them are into high-end technical smithing, tinsmithing, silversmithing, goldsmithing, jewelry and stuff like that. And they're still there, doing well, right? But a lot of them were just kind of common farmer folk. And you don't farm in a city. I didn't know if you knew that, Thunder, right? So what are they going to do? Well, they started leaning on trying to make money off of entertainment. And as they started going, they started going around with these little wagons at first, right? The first early ones, and they would kind of pop the side down. You see them in the movies where they'll drop the side of the wagon and they'll do like a little dance show or a little puppet show or a little comedy thing on the street because it's mobile, right? And they will collect coins, right? This is how they started doing that, and they became more and more successful. They probably got some investment because one of the things the Jews do really well is help each other. We could all learn a lesson there, I think. And they ended up building more permanent bases for their entertainment acts, their comedy and their tricks and their circuses and stuff like that. And they just started becoming more and more successful. They created this little thing we have in America called vaudeville. You ever heard of it? No? I think I put
I
Thunder
have,
to
yes.
sleep. Yeah.
Apparently I was muted.
Well, I mean, and this is where vaudeville comes from, right? Now, did other people get in on on the act? Sure, I'm sure they did, but mainly it was Jewish immigrants that were doing that, and they started becoming more and more successful. And then during the 30s, because time is progressing, right? During the 30s, they started getting into making movies. It was really popular in Europe, right? The French and the Germans dominated that market of movies, and they started putting out. And they had some success with a few things, and then the war hit, right? And
Hmm,
Europe collapsed, and America was in a perfect situation to take over and dominate everything, which we did, right? And so did they. And they ended up migrating literally to the west coast of America in large numbers and building studios and taking a try at it. And they were successful with it because they're the only ones really able to produce major movies at that time. It took the Europeans a little while to catch up. But during that European hiatus, we'll call it, they got really good at what they did. And they started dominating. And then they took complete control of the entertainment for decades. Decades. So,
yep,
yes, Hollywood is full of Jews because they're the ones who built it.
right,
It's not weird. It's not political. It's not some dark conspiracy. It's simply a group of people finding success at one thing on one coast and going to the other coast for cheap land and trying to make a go and being very successful at it because of the various opportunities and situations that were sitting in the world at that time. There's nothing. There's nothing sinister about it, right? It's just a success
yep.
story. So Of course they control Hollywood. Like I said, they built it. And but here's the important thing that I think everyone forgets when it comes to Jewish Hollywood. America, every American alive today has grown up on Jewish entertainment, right? Our
Yep.
language in America is completely inundated with Jewishisms. Many of our sensibilities and what we think of and the jokes we make are Jewish based.
Correct.
It was not an agenda, it's just inadvertent because of the power of TV and the cinema. We are a Jewish people. Now, I understand we're Protestant in religion. I get that. But Americans are, our culture is Jewish because we grew up on their stuff. And of course, they're going to make
Mm,
things from their sensibility. Of course, why wouldn't they? Right. And this is the thing that people don't understand about America. We may be Protestant in our religion, but we are Jewish in our sensibility. Mhm.
mm.
So, Mr. Spielberg, for you to stand up there and say America, of all places, is anti Semitic is ridiculous. We are, all of us, modern Semitic in our nature, just by default of growing up in America. Every TV show you've seen, every movie you've seen is inundated with that culture. We don't realize it, you don't see it, you don't think about it, but it's true. So this cockeyed statement from Steven Spielberg, one, the Trump thing is ridiculously dumb. That's just you're not that stupid, Steven. We know you're not. We know you're not. Secondly, America is one of the most pro-Semitic places on earth. I would say it's more pro-Semitic than frickin' Israel.
Mm.
It is the heartland for you guys now. I know you need that Jerusalem, you need that because of the religious connections. Okay, I get it. But America is your home. America embraced you. America became you. You dick. Sorry.
Yep.
I mean, you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
We are Jews. In our culturally we are, right? Think of all the little jokes and little how many Jewish words do you use throughout your year of talking to people? Do you even realize it?
Oh, there's a ton. Uh, Chutzpah. We use that one.
Chutzpah, Meshugana, the one crazy person, the one I
Meshugana. Call each
use,
other menches. He's a mensch.
mensch. I mean, just tons of stuff we don't even understand are actually Jewish or have been translated over. The entire when I was a kid, because my father didn't really see that my parents didn't see the point of it because they're kind of hard-nosed Baptists, but Northern Baptists. But here's the thing: what percentage of America do you think is circumcised? Men,
Oh, probably almost all of it.
nearly. I'd say over 80%. Right?
Yep.
Shalom, yeah, absolutely. Schmuck, exactly. But there's more. There's so many more, dude. But the thing with it is, why are we circumcised in America? We're Christians. We're Protestant. It's a Protestant country, right? Why are we
Yeah.
circumcised? Doesn't make sense, right? Because that is 100% a Jewish thing, and it's as an apology to God for not following His word strong enough, and the Babylonians crushing them, destroying their capital, and taking them into captivity into Babylon, enslaving them. They got together. That's when they wrote the Torah. By the way, was under captivity, and they also said we need to make a pact with God to show that we're serious. We apologize for because the only way they could lose is if God turned his back on them, right? There's no normal
Mm.
way they could lose. Therefore, they had to apologize. And therefore, their apology to God, their pact with God, was circumcision. It has nothing to do with Christians whatsoever. Nothing, right? But yet, America is a Protestant country, is circumcised. Think about this. Why is polygamy illegal in America? Why? It doesn't make sense. I
Mm.
mean, because if you read the Bible, it's very clear. The only restriction the Bible puts on the number of wives you can have is on a priest. A priest shall only have one wife
Correct.
and not drink of the vine, right?
Correct.
No wine. But the Catholics got that shit back assward. But I mean, that's their point. They are the as above, so below people, aren't they?
Mm,
But nevertheless, there's no reason why the Christians wouldn't be like the Muslim countries and polygamy being a normal thing. Now, I'm not saying that everybody would be able to do it. Probably wouldn't. It would probably look very similar. But there's no reason it should be illegal. It doesn't make any sense at all from a Christian point of view, at all. But yet it is, right? Well, it's because the Jews don't do that. Many of our
mm,
laws, many of our sensibilities are Jewish ones, not Christian ones. Now, it was Kellogg himself, from the cereal guys, the one that really pushed and lobbied for circumcision to become a thing. But it's once again Jewish lobby, right? That really got that done. And everything in the country, we are such a Jewish country. So for you to come up and say that America is anti-Semitic is insanely stupid.
yeah,
It's so, so stupid. There are things that America is bigoted toward. This is obviously humans are humans, but it's not Jews. We are your greatest defender because we are you. And I hear this shit all the time from Seth Rogen's and all of these jackasses that are just do nothing but professionally complain. But Steven Spielberg, are you shitting me?
yeah. I agree with you. It's utter nonsense to suggest that this country hates Jewish people, especially when, for some reason, they always seem to make this suggestion of the right. When
Right.
every major evangelical church that I've ever seen, every major Protestant church that I've ever seen,
hmm
is heavenly Zionist,
Oh,
hev-
we're the ones that
heavily
protect them.
Zionist. Yeah.
It is Republicans that protect them, and they constantly attack them. And it's like, do you have another agenda? You talk about that agenda for a minute. I'll be back in a second.
Ooh. Well, they seem to be very almost suicidal, I would say. It's very strange to me because, like I was saying, you know, the so-called right wing in America, most of them aren't even really right wingers. Actually, they're just theological liberals. Um, but these people are. I mean, if you go to some of these big churches, they are devout Zionists. They're not just like, oh yeah, we like Israel, blah blah blah. No, 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 no. Some of these churches, it's weird. It's a little creepy how much they revere and uphold, exalt, if you will,
hmm
Israel to the point of near divinity and Jewish people with them. I've seen some of them who have said things like they're not sure Jewish people won't go to heaven, even though the Bible directly says that that's not true. They're not certain of many things when it regards to Jewish people. It's strange. You also hear the weird thing. The right wingers will constantly say America is a Judeo-Christian nation,
It is.
which or Judeo-Christian values, which is just, I mean, that's heresy if you're a Christian. What you're saying there, but you know, these people for some reason they all seem to they just take it. They just take this constant smear that they support anti-Semitism, that they hate Jewish people. It's silliness, is what it is, because there's no evidence to substantiate it other than the fact that some fringe people go on and on and on till they're blue in the face about how much they hate Jewish people and they want to, another Holocaust or whatever nonsense. Um, but those people have absolutely no power in society of any merit. None of them do.
Nor should
Like
they.
they're the drifters and the losers,
hmm
and they probably never will in America have the power to do anything even remotely like that. So
Right. No, those people tend not to have power. They often get used by the
yes.
powerful, however. But here's the problem. This is what the truth is. As we kind of boil into Steven Spielberg here. Those Jews I talked about, they came over and built up in New York and created vaudeville, and then went to the West Coast and built studios and et cetera, et cetera. Those guys, they're just kind of blue collar Jews that were looking at making a living, and they're fun. Think of the honeymooners, right?
Mm,
It's just normal people living their life. Religion, of course, is part of it, but life itself is more encompassing than religion, right? That's it. That's the end of it. The problem is this little havens they built in New York and in California. became really, really, really wealthy, right? And as time
Mm,
has gone by, especially the ones over on the West Coast, have become very secular. So when Spielberg and these other Seth Rogen and these other Jews that get up and just make noise constantly, they're not Jewish anyway,
mm,
not anymore. They have been corrupted by their own success, which I'm sure there's a Bible verse in there somewhere. And they have not only become secular, they seem to have always also kind of leaned into the whole Saturnist thing. Now, where did that come from? Is it coming out of Kabbalah? It could be. Is it some other kind of immigration or something that has migrated into or possibly even matriculated into their culture? I don't know. I don't know. I haven't studied it. I'm sure someone smarter than me has. But somewhere along the way, not only did they stop being Jews and become very secular, right? They floated into becoming another type of religion, the Saturnals. We know this is true. We know how it happened. I'm not sure. I'm sure it's just wealth and boredom, you know, idle hands and all. But this is the thing that kills me. America is very, very Jewish in its cultural thinking. But you're not a Jew anymore, Mr. Spielberg. None of you California ones are. You guys are
mm,
something else. So for you to sit there and wear that badge and talk about how someone is against you when they're clearly the ones who actually support you, but they don't support you, and that's why they can do it so easily because they're not Jews anymore. They're something else.
mm.
And this shit is evil. That's evil. Him going on to Colbert, who's absolutely out of his damn mind anyway, talk about throwing a career down the toilet. That's a different conversation. But going on there and talking about nonsense that you don't even believe yourself. His little head doesn't have that shit in it because he knows he's not a Jew, right?
Yep.
Whatever. And yes, I did just spend 30 minutes defending Jews. Hmm. That's it. That's my rant.
It was a good rant.
A little context, please. Right?
It's just silliness. It's like Grimlock over here said, this constant obsession with being the victim and being oppressed
Mm,
is nauseating and exhausting. Um, very, very few people even understand, especially living in America, even understand what the word oppression means. Like truly, deep in their heart, understand what it means. Very few people have lived it, and most of those people are immigrants who came from terrible situations. Um, I'm so sick of hearing the word that I almost wish these people were oppressed just so we could shut them the hell up. Sick of it. Like it's nauseating for
yeah.
them to constantly be, here's another Jewish word, Chester, kvetching about
Mm,
this
yeah.
over and over and over and over and over. And it does nothing. First of all, even if they were, what does whining about it get you? What does whining about it get you? It's not gonna
Attention.
that's not gonna change it. If you were truly oppressed, do you think your oppressors are gonna change it because you ask them nicely? Or because you keep screeching and crying? No, that's not how that works. That's not how any of that works. How many slaves do you think were released because they simply annoyed their master?
Hmm.
Not many. I'd wager. Not many.
They were
They were
made
probably
example
beaten
of, I
until they
would
shut
assume.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
if they were black,
silly.
that's probably true because they're expensive. The white
Yeah.
ones and the yellow ones and the brown ones, I just kill them because they're cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get
Mm.
them from
Anyway,
anywhere. They're a surplus of them.
yeah, let's continue this with one last little entry because it kind of ties into this, but it ties in also to our initial conversation.
British government reportedly believes radicalization into the far right can occur from reading Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, Aldous Huxley, and George Orwell.
Now, this
Uh-huh.
is far more disturbing than that headline. leads to. This is in Britain, of course, British government. And this is the British government. This isn't some activist group. This is the actual British government. There is a group that they put together called Prevent in Britain to prevent racism. Okay, the concept sounds good, right? And therefore, there is a group that was charged with doing research to find out where it comes from and how to deal with it. United Kingdom's Research, Information, and Communication Unit, the RICU. Okay. And they have gone and created their report and turned it into the British government. And in this report, it's basically anybody who's not a screaming, hardcore left progressive is a right wing extremist.
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating at all, right? Therefore, after reading this, the British government decided that, well, we need to have a more balanced take on things. So, what they're advising in this list of red flags that came out from the RICU is that every government agency, anything connected to the government, anything that gives money to programs, grants, anything at all, should be very careful about funding or supporting anything that is on this list. Now,
Yeah.
that's serious because they've basically made a decision. Well, some of that seems a bit extreme, but we better just, for safety's sake, level it all up. The whole thing, let's just bring it all up. So basically, what this is saying is if you are not an extreme leftist progressive in Britain, you will get zero government support. The only government support in Britain is going to the extreme left because the things this RICU has red flagged as being right wing is mainly middle moderate,
Yeah.
right? So they have gone way extreme. And of course, this ties into why they're rewriting everything. This is why all that's going on. Britain is like, oh, that's unacceptable. We have to rewrite it. We have to rewrite it. We have to change history. We have to rewrite history. This is what this is. This is the RICU, which is clearly full of a bunch of woke tards, put together a report where everything is racist, as we know. And the British government went, So
Yeah.
George Orwell, 1984, is on the list. How ironic. And that is the most appropriate use of irony you could ever, 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 ever say.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Wow.
In fact, we almost need to just take a picture of that list
Mm-hmm.
in its entirety with George Orwell's 1984 and just replace the definition of irony as written with that picture
Yep.
because you're not going to get a better example than that.
No, you're not. And of course, that includes all of Tolkien's stuff, C.S. Lewis's stuff, Huxley's Brave New World. How dare you point out the evils of socialism? And many, many other authors. Anybody who is talking about normal family values, standing against evil, whatever, just kind of your standard stuff is on the list. Now, I imagine there probably are some extreme right wing written, literature. We probably can't name them because they didn't really hit, right? Because what hits? The stuff that's in the middle, because most humans are in the
Well,
middle.
according to these people, Ayn Rand is extreme right wing.
Oh well, we know they hate her. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, so,
and she has one of, if not the most successful singular novels ever written,
oh yeah, Atlas Shrugged. Yeah,
with Atlas Shrugged.
yeah.
But funnily enough, I don't see it on this list.
Right. Well, I don't have the full list up. She might well be. But of course, she predicted the future perfectly, though. She was
Yeah,
smart. She very clear. Everything she said would happen has happened and more. Right.
yeah,
So Ayn Rand, you hard nosed, rough lady. But whatever. So this is very serious because the American government would love to do the same. The British don't have freedom. We know this. They have little
Yep.
spots in their city that they can go stand in that circle and say what they want until the police decide, oh, that's enough, and arrest them. Right? That's the
Yep.
closest thing they have to free speech. They don't have it. They don't have freedom over there. Their government is 100% against anybody who isn't on board with this agenda. 100%. I don't give a shit who's in charge. Tory labor doesn't seem to matter because the government is hardcore progressive, and they are a
Yep.
full on attack against anything that they don't agree with. Now, you could say, well, you don't need government support for stuff. You can go do things independently and have success. That is true. But it's not a good thing having a government stand in your way. Now, is it?
Mm.
Is it? Right? So you're going to get more and more books that end up in the schools when the kindergartners talk about this is how you have gay sex, and you're going to have more and more transgender stuff because they're trying to destroy the masculine. They're trying to emasculate men as quickly and as in a totality, right, is their ultimate goal. Look what with the new Dungeons and Dragons movie. How sad. They admit, they come out, the creators of it. Yes, we emasculate the lead hero, but not for any agenda, just because it's funny. Okay, alrighty then. But they're desperate to tear men out of society. And why would you do that? Let me ask you that question, Thundero. You have a group of people who have access to power and they control a lot of things in our Western world. They are doing everything they can. It's quite clear. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is not. It's clear. They're trying to emasculate men. Why
Mhm.
would you do that? What would you gain from that, you think?
Control. Power.
Power. Yeah.
Yep.
Because look what happens when you remove the man from the house,
Yep.
right? All of a sudden, kids are running around a field playing soccer with helmets. Everyone gets a trophy. There's no competitiveness. There's no struggle to actually become good. Everyone is special, which of course is one of the worst lies you could ever tell a human. You are not special. You are not. None of us are special. You got to work your ass off to be special, and I encourage you to do so. This is the message you should be telling children, but they don't. And why is it? Because there's no men around. Men are the ones that push back against that. And I'm not blaming women. They're doing exactly what they should do. They're moms, they're protective, they're worried. It's their job. Men are there to as a balance, and the women balance the men too. They don't go too far. That's the point of our beautiful, synergy that comes between the man and the woman. It creates a good middle ground. But they took the perfect approach: remove the men from the household, emasculate men, make them all gay and transgender. Therefore, we have power because the women are going to protect and be sympathetic, which is their nature. And it's not wrong. It's exactly what they should be, right? It's not. I'm not complaining about women here at all. They're just being used,
Yep.
right? The women are going to be them. They're going to be what they are. They're going to follow their nature. Therefore, if we can remove the men, then it's going to work out for us because the women are going to agree. Oh yeah, we need to protect. Oh, it's so dangerous. Take away my freedoms. I don't need them. And the men have been completely put on the sideline. Look how bad it is. Men can't come up and make a statement and say, "Well, hold on a sec," because all of a sudden misogyny, racism, whatever phobia. Men have zero voice now. It's gone, right? In the Western countries anyway. And we anyone with sense knows this is not a good thing. We need balance, right? Look at the
Yes.
absolutely radical escalation of homosexuality and transgenderism. Now we know it's mainly fashion or people just trying to fit in and just trying to find a way to get through. We know that most of them aren't actually gay, a la Ezra Miller, right? But still, look how
Yep.
far this has gone, dude. The British government is 100% on board with anything that questions the agenda will be shut down.
Yeah.
Right there. Right there. I mean, You can go find articles and read the actual report itself and the findings from the. I'm sure you could probably find a video of them talking about it in their parliament. I'm sure, right? It's right here. It's real. It's not a lie. It's not conspiracy theory. It's right there. And I don't know, dude. How do you come back? How do we come back from this?
Um, you don't. Not without a lot of dead people.
Yeah, it always leads
That's
to
the
that
truth
the
of the
damn
matter.
cycle we humans can't get out of, dude.
Yeah, because we're influenced by dark forces, Chester.
Fair enough.
This is why I say the devil is real. Because it doesn't make any sense why we keep making the same mistake over and 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 over again.
And over.
Unless something evil, something that it does not have our best interests at heart, is getting us to make that same mistake over and over and over again.
You know something that's been around for 3,300 years that has
What's
been
that?
influencing things? The money of Egypt still
Hmm.
enforcing itself in our world today. Who controls that?
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh-huh.
Well, I
Uh-huh.
would say that is the master of the world, because he is the master of them, is that devilish spirit, whatever you want to call it. I don't care what you call him. He has many names. This old evil bastard.
Hmm.
Every single culture has an ultimate evil in their lore for a reason, and it's because I think the more knowledge you gain, the more you know how we say ignorance is bliss, and every culture has a similar idiom. Ignorance is bliss.
Mm-hmm.
When you know too much, you become miserable. It's because the more you know, the more you realize
That's true.
that that's real. The
Yeah.
darkness
Yeah,
is a
it's
real
true.
thing, and it's out there, and it's controlling this world more than we like to admit.
Yeah. Here in Asia, the ignorance is bliss, which is my favorite proverb, by the way. But
Yeah,
here in Asia, they say it in this way: having no knowledge is being Buddha.
yeah.
Ignorance is
Well, it's
bliss.
funny because one of those ways to enter Zen, or maybe the main one, is to clear your mind,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
to
Yeah, but
effectively be ignorant for
well,
as long as you
I
possibly
feel
can.
bad for the Zen Buddhist priests and all those adherents because
Yeah,
Bob Ross succeeded in it decades ago,
yeah,
and he had zero training.
it's true. He ascended,
He
I
ascended.
believe.
He is the
Yeah,
pure
him and
embodiment
Mister
of Zen.
Rogers,
Yeah, well,
they
Mr.
both could.
Rogers is a little bit different, but Bob Ross is the pure embodiment of Zen.
Mister Rogers is a saint, sir.
He
I'll
is a
have you know.
saint, but
Yeah.
that doesn't connect to Zenism.
I think it all does, though. I think if you really break it down, pretty much the point of just about every religious exercise is to, unless it's a dark religion, is to enter that state of non-thinking,
The
to shut
bliss.
your mind off while still being awake.
Yeah, maybe.
And I've done it a couple times. In fact, one of the easiest ways to do it is driving. If you're driving on a long highway, your brain can just shut off, and
Oh
you're
yeah.
still driving, but you just like lose track of time for
Oh yeah, happens all the time. Yeah.
moments at a time.
The body is just doing the function in your brain somewhere else. Yeah, it's fine.
Yep, yep,
No problem with driving a multi-ton vehicle at high speeds down the road. It's
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It's
What
all
could go
good.
wrong?
What could go
What
wrong?
could go wrong?
What could go wrong? But anyway, so all these things are canceled. They're all canceled. Everything's canceled. But the thing is, this is Britain, and they don't have any. They don't have freedom. They never have. Their whole nonsense where they talk about the Magna Carta. Yeah. Once again, that didn't get signed. It was burned by Richard the Lionheart's brother. You know that dick from the Robin Hood movies. That guy, right? He never signed it. The Magna
Yeah,
Carta is an idea. It's not real. The British have never had freedom, and they never will. The Americans at least had a group of founders that tried to give us a chance, a fighting chance, and they're
yeah.
chipping away at it. Boy, are they chipping away at it. So, because they want to do this in America, they want to do this. Same
Well,
thing
they already what they're
in
doing is
some
they're doing it
ways.
through corporations.
Yeah, and then
Um,
and states, California and stuff are doing it
yep,
as well. But the
yep.
majority of the country, you know.
They're trying to go around the Constitution by privatizing tyranny, and that's been tried before. This isn't a new idea. It pretty much always fails because eventually those people will just become the de facto state, which is basically what's happened.
Mhm.
Um, and then they're easily excised like a tumor from the back of the polity.
Right.
When you can keep it private, because private means dispersed, right? It's a wider net. Once you centralize that censorious nature, whatever you
Mhm.
want to call it, whatever this is, whatever this spirit is that comes over great civilizations, where they turn inward on themselves and start ripping apart their own culture, which has happened to all of them, every single one. Whatever that is, fails in the end. It
Mhm.
just sometimes takes a very long time for it to happen. And the
Yeah.
last time we entered a genuine, what we call a dark age, it took a very long time for us to correct it.
Well,
So,
over 1,000 years with the Catholics anyway. The
yeah,
Byzantines trudged along, and so
they did.
uh,
They
uh,
they kept the torch lit as long
they
as they
did,
could.
they did, and then they got obliterated somehow. It's been hidden from us, but
Yeah,
nevertheless, you use the word polity, which is interesting use of the word. Most people would use say political or politically, but do you know where this word comes from? Do you know the root,
polity.
the etymology of politic?
I think I do, but you probably know better. So tell me.
It's a Greek word, and
Yes.
the Greeks, I'm not going to get into the entire history, but if we go back way, 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 way back in time, the rich Egyptians, traders and things like that, they were of course trading all across the Mediterranean into in the Indian Ocean. And, the Egyptians were a real deal, right? And a lot of their rich people built like what we would call a villa or an estate on the northern end of the Mediterranean. Not only some are in France and stuff, but a lot of them ended up in little islands because they were really wealthy, so they would own the island, right? Now these
Hmm.
islands today we call Greece, right? But the Egyptians, rich people, set up their estates there. And when in 1300, around that period, the Santorini volcano went off, and it absolutely obliterated their way of life in that part of the world, and it probably affected the whole planet, to be honest. uh,
Hmm.
like the one it went off a couple hundred years ago here in Asia. But it was bad, and it threw us into a dark age. And coming out the back of that dark age is when you start getting into the classical Greek era, right?
Yeah.
With Solon and all those kind of, like 500, 600, BCE. And those little estates that the Egyptians controlled, that the rich people lived in, they had to survive that crazy time. I mean, people are migrating left and right trying to find new homes because there's no food. Everything's devastated. The whole sea people conundrum, which isn't a conundrum to me at all, but I'm not going to get into that. They're just trying to survive. And those places became entrenched. And of course, these rich Egyptian nobles and tradesmen, they had people on the land, they had farmers, because it isn't like today where you can go down to the supermarket, right? So they had
Right.
everything already in place on their estates, anyhow. And as the centuries went on, these rich Egyptian estates became polis.
Mm.
And what is a polis? Some people would translate it as neighborhood, some people would translate it as village. What it really means is, I would say nation state
Yeah.
is really a better way to say it. It is just a micro version of it, right? A
Hmm.
micro version of a nation state, the polis, and everything had to do with the polis. And the thing is, during the Hellenic age, which understand that Greek is a Roman word, just like
Hmm.
Germany is a Roman word. They're not,
Right.
they're Schwabians. They call
Correct.
themselves Schwabians. They don't even have a name for their country, by the way. They just call it the land of our forefathers, Deutschland, right?
Hmm.
They don't even name their country, but they are Schwabians. Honestly, all of us are, to be fair, if we follow our lineage back. But a lot of words we use today are Roman. They're not of the people. The reason they call it Greece is because there was like a kind of a civil war way, way back, even before the classical period, where the losing group did fine. We'll leave then. and they went west to their trading holds, because the reason that Greece survived it and came up is because they made good friends with the Phoenicians. They picked up their
Mhm.
language. We went from Linear B to what we know as Greek today, which is Phoenician, which of course is where English comes from. But that group that went west were called the Grecians. The ones who stayed and controlled the islands were called the Hellenes, right? So the
Right.
Romans are coming up around the same time, really. It just took a while for them to become powerful, and there's reasons for it, which I won't give you a history lesson on how that is. But that's why the Romans called them Grecians, because these big group of people in their government that control most things are Grecians, and they're from there, right? But they're not
Yep.
Grecians, they're Hellenes, and it was called the Hellenic Leagues, right? And it was
Yep.
full of all these little teeny villages, which are called polis, and the polis absolutely dominated every aspect of life. And as time went by, some polises came together into larger groups, like say under the Athenian League, the
Mhm.
Peloponnesian League with Sparta, etc., etc. So polis comes from this concept of a self-sustaining village. And isn't it
Yes.
interesting today that we use that word to represent politics?
Well, because at the end of the day, Chester, all politics is local. And if it isn't, then it's not really a problem.
It
Like if
should
it
be.
doesn't affect you in your day-to-day life, it's not really a problem to you.
Well,
Now, I
that
know we
is
like to, especially
it's
in
true,
America, we like to make everything a federal problem, national problem, blah
which
blah
is
blah blah blah.
ridiculous. Yeah.
But most things aren't. There's
No.
very few times where there's a crisis that actually genuinely requires national attention,
That's right.
federal attention.
That's right. Yeah.
But for some reason, we humans, and I think this is the feminine side of humanity, we like daddy to take care of things, right?
Yeah.
And if we
Yeah.
don't have God be daddy or something like God to stand in, or just, their dads, we don't have that, then we look to the state. And this has happened all over the world, in all cultures, that something like this happens. There's a reason why priests and chieftains and things existed. It's because the people wanted them to exist. One of the best stories in the Bible, in the Old Testament, is the Jews didn't have a king. They saw everybody else had kings, and they were envious. They wanted a king. Now, why would they be envious of a king? Why did they want that?
Yeah.
Because there's something inside of us that wants a king, that wants daddy, that
Yeah.
wants somebody to come and take care of our problems for us.
Because we're busy doing other shit, we want someone to take care of the overarching stuff. I understand
Yeah.
it. But to be honest, I've asked the question several times on this channel: how do we get back to where we need to be? And really, what the answer is: make everything local again. We need to
Yep.
make things local,
Let
local
a
economies,
thousand
local
nations
farming.
bloom.
Yes, we need. That's the solution. Go back to a local mentality.
Smaller
Uh,
scale is
but
easier to manage.
this is not what the bankers want. They
No,
don't
they want
want
they
that.
want global
They
domination.
want global domination. So,
They want their serfs back, Chester.
they do. They do.
This
And
whole
it's good.
thing was started by the very people who the Protestants largely overthrew in Europe,
Yep.
and obviously then many of them came here and built this country. It was all this whole thing was
Is it?
all those people were deposed in many places in many ways, and they didn't like it,
Mhm.
so they found a different way. Just as the Roman Catholic Church went from being a official empire to just the church, even though they basically were still an empire. Uh, the same thing happened. They just
It's
shifted. They
that's the
they
Germans'
shifted.
fault. They did that.
Well, yeah, it usually is. I mean,
But
let's
it's
be
also the
look at
Germans that,
history.
well, dude, but it's also the Germans that pushed back with the Protestant Reformation, Lutheran
Yep,
Reformation. But yeah, but no, and this nonsense. It's sad that it's quite often the thing you fight against you become. It's really really
yes,
weird. Let a more modern, simple look. The hippies became the yuppies, the
yep,
exact embodiment of what they supposedly stated they hated. They
yep.
became the embodiment of
And now their
every
children are
ideology.
becoming the fascists.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 So,
Um, the people with the golden rule. of interpersonal dynamics is, do unto others as you do unto them. But the golden rule of societal dynamics is he who has the gold makes the rules.
Hmm.
And that's why these people never lose because they get to make all the rules.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's
what
true,
they do
Cap
is
Canada.
they just find convenient scapegoats to shove off all their sins like a sacrifice, and then they shift and they come up with a new strategy like this woke stuff. The reason this stuff was always there, but everybody laughed at it and ignored it for the most part. But the reason it's being pushed at such a crazy level now is because the corporations did a bunch of studies and they found out that women and non-white people specifically and gays and all the other things are more susceptible to top-down manipulation, if you will. And they're much more consumerist. Your conservative white man and your conservative Asian man are far less consumerist. They're just
Well,
not out here spending
because
like
we
the other
don't
groups are.
need things.
Exactly. And they need to be needed because if you need something from them, they got you.
Yeah.
And
I
that's all
mean,
they care
I
about.
am a perfect example of that. I have two pair of shoes, two pair of jeans, four pair of non-jeans, etc. I just don't need stuff. When I do
Stuff
buy
just gets
stuff,
in the
it's
way.
yeah, I do make sure I maintain a good computer, I maintain a good car, entertainment system, but I don't need stuff. I'm not the type that goes into the store and sees something near the cash register, ooh, and add it to my list. I don't do that.
Hmm.
And most men don't. It's just not built into us. I don't know that I don't think it's political at all. I just think it's
No,
nature.
it's not.
Yeah.
But the woke stuff isn't political either. It's the corporations have demanded this. They want this perfect consumer. They're chasing these whales. And the people who will fall for that and become that for them are the people who are politically aligned to the left. If those people were on the right, we'd have the most right wing country you've ever seen because the corporations would push us that way. They would demand it.
Oh,
But
sure.
they don't want that. They want the people who will give them the most money
They want,
and
yeah.
become literally what they say that they don't want, which is just basic fascism. Like
Yeah.
that's what they've become. All become fascists, or they become, or they're actual dyed in the wool communists. There's a few dyed in the wool communists who still exist out there.
There
They're
are.
actually pretty cool, pretty easy to get along with. I don't have any real problem with them. I think their ideology is ridiculous, and I would do anything to do to stop it. But these other people who think that they're liberals and they think that they're progressives and they're the good guys and they're out here virtue signaling and they're doing all this other stuff, right? These people are monsters and they don't. What the
Mm.
sad thing is, most of them don't even know it. They're
Well, they're
so
useful idiots.
dangerous.
Let's be fair.
Yeah,
They're
the
not,
useful idiot is
yeah.
far more dangerous than the
Of
malicious
course,
monster.
always true. And of course, this is nothing new. Politically minded people have been using useful idiots for millennia. But anyway, all of today was to get to this story. This is diabolical, dude. This is
Yeah.
not a joke. Like I said, this headline really doesn't capture the weight of this. The British government officially is now progressive.
Well, communists. They're
Well, okay,
Marxists.
fine. But then again, a lot of those books were written by communists, right?
Which is
So,
funny. You know what's funny is a lot of well, they were written by socialists. A lot of the guys, um, Karl Marx was a Jew, yet for some reason, a lot of dyed in the wool actual communists, deep Marxists, don't like Jewish people very much. They say a lot of very anti-Semitic things. Um, I find that hilarious. I just find that irony is delicious to me.
it's
That
be
the man who wrote the ideology that they love and they worship like a religion and lift up like a prophet was Jewish.
right. Well, the average Jew is just a normal person. Really what it
Yeah.
is there's a small subset of Jews called Zionists, and these Zionists have all the money in the world. And
Yes.
therefore, if you're a communist and you're looking at rich people, you have by default must hate them. But anyway,
Yep.
enough sadness. Let's end today on a little bit of happiness. What do you say?
Oh my goodness. He's coughing. Trying to not cough in your ear, Chester.
It's fine.
With all of
Slade
my heart.
has taken over the top 10. Frank has been
Uh-oh.
discharged.
It's probably for the best, to be
Probably for the
honest.
best. But Slade is smarter with his headlines. Go ahead.
10 action movies with sequels better than you remember.
See, this is very
Yeah,
innocuous and safe headline, right?
I would say the one in the middle there is no, but the other two, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mind the Danny Glover one. It was all right. But let's see what Slade. Now, this is a very innocuous, safe headline, which I think Slade is better. Let's see what Slade thinks, though, because this isn't really a top 10 list. This is just movies that he think are better than they get credit for. The little hidden gems. Bloodsport 2, The Next Kumite. Okay.
I don't think I've ever seen it. I didn't know they made a second one.
Hmm. I think I saw it.
I I don't believe Jean-Claude is in it.
No, no. He went on to do those Thai kickboxing movies. What are they called?
Kickboxer.
Mm, that one. Yeah.
This is
Uh,
one I'm surprised hasn't had a remake. I'm being like they've remade just about everything they could from the 80s and earlier.
hmm
I'm surprised they haven't tried Bloodsport because especially with how popular MMA is, you would
Well,
think it'd be perfect.
yeah, but it came out that the Frank, whatever his name is, the guy who that's based upon, is an absolute fraud.
Correct.
None of it's real. That was supposed to be like almost like a documentary in a way about a guy who was supposed to do this amazing thing. He's a complete liar and fraud. Kind of like a certain guy who just became was made Russian and got a special medal from a certain Russian president. What's his name? Oh yeah,
Hmm.
Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why. Yeah, that's probably
And
why.
it's funny because while there were frauds, and a lot of them,
hmm
the ones who weren't frauds, like your Chuck Norrises or your Van
Bruce.
Dams, Bruce Lee, those guys are the ones that people revere, I would say.
hmm
And then the ones who were frauds, people just forget if ever existed. It's interesting how that happens.
Yeah, well, Chuck was a real deal for sure.
Oh,
But
Chuck was a bad man in his
and
prime.
he's
Bad
also
man.
strongly responsible for karate being so widespread in America. Karate
Yeah, I'd say
Federation, things
most of
like
the
that.
world, to be honest,
Yeah. Yep.
outside of Asia. He also is, believe it or not, Mr. Chuck Norris. That is not his name. That is a stage name.
hmm Let me guess, John Smith.
Nope. You're not going to believe it. You're not going to believe it when I tell you it's Carlos Ray Norris.
Oh yeah, no, I
Carlos.
knew his name was Carlos. Yeah, he's
Yep.
got a very but they're from that area. I don't know this movie. I probably have seen it, but I don't know Slade. I don't know. I know this is wrong. I've seen this movie. This is a bad movie.
Yeah, that is the. It's not the worst Karate Kid, but it's in the running.
It's
It's
bad,
making a
dude.
case.
It's
Yeah, it's
bad.
not good. And the worst part about this one is, well, beside everything, but
hmm
Pat is still amazing as he always is. Um, but it was just poorly conceived because basically at the end of the movie, the only reason Daniel wins the final fight is because the other guy just keeps cheating and keeps getting
Right.
points taken off.
Right.
Otherwise, he just got absolutely rolled like it wasn't even a
Yeah.
fight.
This guy right here, the actor in the middle of the screen, they tried so hard to push him as a leading sexy man. And he
Yep.
just, unfortunately, they tried so many movies to push this guy. I can't remember his name, but they did try to make him something, and it just didn't work. I don't know why. I
Well,
guess,
he was really good in the last season of Cobra Kai. Like he came back and redid this role and was basically the main villain.
yeah,
Last two seasons actually, and I think he did a great job. To be
hmm
honest, I think it
that was
was
my point.
quite a good take.
He's in a bunch of movies in the late '80s and '90s. They really were trying to make him a thing. It just didn't happen. I don't know why.
Thomas Ian Griffith
Yep,
is his real name,
yep. They put him in a bunch of stuff. Go look at his
and
IMDb.
he's a genuine martial artist, like genuine, and he's younger than Ralph Macchio.
Well, yeah,
Because
Ralph was
Macchio
very
has one
old.
of them baby faces. He
He
just doesn't
does.
age.
Well, he was 30 something in the original one, right?
Yeah, I think he was in the original one, he was in his, like, mid-20s, and
No,
then
no,
by
no.
this
He
one,
was
he
like
was, like, 30.
32, 33. Seriously. Yeah. He's way older than you think he is. And he still looks young. It still works.
He's, like, 5 years younger than Machio, Terry
Wow.
Silver is.
That's funny. But okay. But no, this is not a good movie. Slate, you're not right. Uh, this is though. This is actually not
Yeah,
that
that's
bad a movie.
actually probably his best movie or it's definitely one of them.
You know, The Under Siege and some of her other stuff. I mean, Steven has certainly made entertainment stuff, but he's become an absolute joke in
Yep,
his later life here. It's ridiculous. But he makes these, movies on a budget of $10 and sells them to the Slavs, and they absolutely adore it. So
yep.
he found his market. Good for him. Because the
Hey, it
Slavs
works.
love him, dude. I don't know what it is, but his manly macho attitude translates really well into their languages, I guess. So
Yeah.
you go, Steven. But he is a horrible human being. Oh my God, he's such a bad human being. He's an awful human dude. Oh my God. Anyway, moving on. Uh, I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. It's really good.
Yeah,
I like this one better than the first one. This one,
me too.
I think the reason I like this one better is that right there. The
Danny.
back of the man right there.
Yeah,
Danny DeVito's Penguin.
yeah,
Fantastic.
it was
A
fantastic.
role he was born to play.
hmm hmm but yeah, this is certainly a good sequel. I agree. Absolutely. And Danny was amazing. And if you haven't seen it, go check just for Danny, really.
Yep.
Let's see here. Ghostbusters 2. Yeah, sure. Is this not felt as a great movie?
No, a lot of people don't like it, actually.
Really? Oh, I liked it.
And I don't really know why, because I think, well, actually, I do. The reason why is because the first one it just didn't need a sequel.
It didn't.
It
No.
was, they nailed it. They nailed it. Perfect movie from beginning to end. And this one is less than perfect. So people
Mm.
put more anger on it because they really didn't need a sequel.
No, they didn't. And these guys, the whole premise of the second one is, they solve the problem, so they kind of put themselves out of business, and they're all,
Yeah.
trying to stay alive, and that's kind of the premise of the second one. It's all right though. It's fine. It's certainly better than the third one. My God, I
Yeah.
haven't seen the fourth one, so
Well, the third one they just wrote out of existence. They just
yeah.
pretend that doesn't exist
Well, that's
anymore.
just a reboot anyway. At least the fourth one is a continuation of sorts. I haven't seen it though. But
I hear it's really good. In all
mm,
fairness, I do hear it's really good.
well, they bring back the ghost of Harold Ramis, so
Yeah, yeah.
but
I
whatever.
do find it strange though that they made that movie, um, and they made it seemingly. I haven't seen it either. I do need to watch it. They've made it seemingly much more oriented to children, which this movie
It's because of the
isn't.
TV
It's
show.
not.
Yeah.
It's not vulgar, like excessively vulgar. The first Ghostbusters movie or the second one, but it's definitely not aimed at kids.
No.
It's just kids liked it because it was cool.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Alan is right. The Statue of Liberty scene is cringeworthy. It's just jumping the shark. They just jump the shark.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But it's not a bad movie. Let's see here. Highlander 2. Yeah, sure. This is fine. Yeah, yeah. It's one of the worst movies ever made, but it's fine, Slade. No problem.
But it's a good bad movie, Chestnut.
No,
It's a
it's
good
not.
bad
This
movie.
movie sucks balls. It's so dumb. The story is
It is dumb.
ridiculous. I mean, it's got Sean Connery in it, and it's got our boy here. But no, this is a horrible movie. Do not scar yourself by watching it. Do not.
Especially since the first one is just it's perfect.
It
It's
is a
such a
great
good
fun
movie.
movie. It's the perfect popcorn film, right?
Yes.
This one is monstrously bad. Slade should be slapped across both cheeks. All four
Well, the
cheeks
other
get
problem
slapped,
this
Slade.
movie has is it doesn't have Kurgan, you see.
No, well, dude.
And he makes that first movie.
Speaking of the Kurgan, Clancy Brown,
Yep,
who is the official mascot of this channel, just so you know.
that's right.
But I found something out yesterday, or no, 2 days ago, that I didn't know, and it absolutely
Uh-oh.
blew my mind. Clancy Brown, the immortal, amazing Clancy Brown, Shawshank
Yep, that's
Redemption,
him.
Highlander, all the great things he's done,
Yep.
is the voice of Mr. Krabs.
What?
Yeah. My son was watching,
No.
yes, I was watching it, and they had a thing where they were live action. They were just sitting in a panel doing a skit, one of the shows, and they're all reading it. Oh my God. It looked like it's the
Holy
funnest job in the world.
crap!
Dude, Clancy Brown's Mr. Krabs.
How did I not know
I
that?
know, me too. I was like, "What? No." Because all the other guys are just voice actors. They were no one, and they're great at what they do. But I was like, "Clancy? What is he doing here?" And he started speaking as Krabs, and I was like, "Oh." My mouth was literally agape.
That boggles my mind. I
Yeah.
don't even hear his voice in Crabs.
No.
That's
But yeah,
impressive. I didn't
go
know he could do that.
go watch a video on it. It's freaky. It's freaky, dude.
I
Clancy
would have
Brown.
never thought that. Never.
Well, I didn't know it, but I should have caught on because I wasn't paying attention. But they had a one of those pseudo live action Roger Rabbit esque SpongeBob's that I took the kids to watch, and I did
Mm.
notice Clancy standing in the background, and I was like, because they end up taking all the voice actors and put him as background cameos. Why not, right? And I I didn't know why. I was like, why is Clancy Brown there? Oh well, I just ignored it. Now I know why, because he's frickin' Mr. Krabs. So there you go. Blew your mind. You dudes didn't know that, Grimlock. All right, fine, Grimlock. Be like that. Anyway, this movie is monstrous. Do not watch it. It's ridiculously stupid. It makes stupid look good. Okay.
That
Uh,
boggles my mind.
yeah, no, I know,
Boggled.
dude. Yeah, I know. Uh, oh, come on. Fuck off. These new movies are not good, dude. Next, dude. Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
there's Predator too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't mind Danny Glover in it. He is miscast, although he did a good job in the movie though. But your brain can't get around it. It's not his
Yep.
fault. Your brain can't. He's typecast. But this movie actually is fine. It's fine.
Well, that makes me happy for Clancy because here I was sitting over here thinking he hasn't been getting enough work, and this whole time he's been Mr. Krabs.
Yeah, I know, dude. I
So
know
he's doing all right.
it blew my mind too. I was like, because looking at all the people on the stage, they were doing like some tour for SpongeBob, right?
Yep.
And of course I get it. It's a beloved TV show. My kids loved it. It's funny. It's well written. I get it. But he's the biggest person on that stage. I'm like, why is Clancy there? Again, my brain was like, why is Clancy there? And then he started speaking. It was like, shut up. Right? Really? Yeah, anyway, Predator 2, yeah, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with this movie. RoboCop 2, yeah, I like RoboCop 2. It's
Yeah,
nowhere near
RoboCop
but
2 is great.
this has the same problem the other movies we mentioned. The first ones are so good, they don't really need more.
That's true.
Yeah, we don't need a Predator 2. We don't need a Ghostbusters 2. We don't need Highlander 2. We don't need RoboCop 2. We don't need it. Those first movies were perfect little encapsulated stories that were excellent. Especially this
Yep.
one is hardcore. And is this Verhoeven? No, no. It's like that. This guy created a whole bunch of really weird acclaimed Starship Troopers. It's that guy. But the RoboCop 2, it's fine though. They had a cool bad guy at the end. It's kind of like the Wrath of Khan. The bad guy is what makes it cool. That was a Star Trek mention, by the way. Okay.
Yeah, the Wrath of Khan is probably. I'm not even gonna say probably. It is the best Star Trek movie.
Yeah, Ricardo Montalban just ate it up.
Yeah,
He
he just
owned that
kills it.
shit.
He eats every scene.
Yeah.
Um, and he brought the best out of Shatner. That's probably Shatner's best performance as Kirk
Hmm.
is in that movie.
Anyway, this is a great movie. This fun. They have a good bad guy in it. It's fun, and the little kid is freaking ridiculous. It's awesome. Anyway, let's see. He's Superman. Away. No, Slade is on my list now. He's on my list.
This movie. Oh, look! As much credit as we give to our boy here, Chris, especially for his first two times in the tights. The last two, oh boy,
Bad,
were they
dude.
something?
Now, I know people want to put a lot of blame on Richard Pryor. I don't blame Richard Pryor. Richard
No.
Pryor is was, sorry, I'm pretty sure he's dead now. Was a major Superman fan. He loved Superman comic books growing up. He's a big Superman fan. He was weird. You go look at his interviews on Johnny Carson and other things. He was very excited to be in this movie. And I get the idea of putting a funny man in there, but boy, this really didn't work. But it's not Richard's fault. A lot of people tend to blame Richard Pryor, but it's not his fault. He took a job into a film that he was really excited about. It just wasn't written well. The story is dumb. They didn't have the money because the thing a lot of people don't understand about Superman stuff. This is a bunch of Israeli Jew guys who got a hold of things and were trying to make a business,
Mm,
and they just absolutely squandered and destroyed the whole thing, and they ended up went belly up, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
in the
It's a
first,
shame because if you had left these Superman movies at two, because that the first movie was meant to be, that's how they wanted to make it.
right,
Um,
right,
I think this would be remembered even more fondly, even though obviously that first Superman movie is the best Superman movie made to date, which
it
is
is great.
terrible,
It is great.
but it's
But
true.
but no, but the thing is, even with those guys, the Bacon guys, whatever his name was, but they interfere with Donner, and the
Yeah,
the first and second movie are not what he wanted. They actually kicked them
right.
out and finished it on their own, and it's unfortunate because you can see it. Imagine what we would have got without their interference. And in Superman 3
Hmm.
and 4, you basically have them taking over the creative process and they screwed it up. So,
Yeah,
Slade, no, it's a horrible movie. It's awful. Don't hurt yourself. Don't watch it. And that's it. Okay, good. So
that's the end of
bad,
it.
wrong. This is good. Good,
It's fine.
wrong, wrong, most wrong. I don't know, dude. Which is worse, this one or Superman 3? I don't know.
Probably
Oh,
Superman 3, just because it's about Superman.
this is yeah, but dude, this is so insane where they thought that it was a cool idea to take the story. Oh my god, dude. I'm not even gonna tell you the story because I don't want you to know it. Okay. This is fine. Actually, probably the best on the list is right here.
Yeah,
Fine. God no. And that's where we started. Right? And this one I don't really know. I can't comment. So Slade
yeah, I've
didn't
never seen
he
it.
didn't do a good job. This isn't a good job.
Mm-mm,
No. No.
mm-mm,
No.
mm-mm.
I could have created 10 lists of sequels that are unsung heroes much better than this. I probably could create a top 100 list that's better than this.
Yeah.
Oh well.
What would you say of the Indiana Jones trilogy? Because I'm not going to pretend those other movies exist. Of the
No, they're great.
trilogy,
They're great.
what
Yeah.
what
All
would you
three.
say is the best one?
The third one.
Think the Last Crusade, huh?
Yep. That's my favorite.
Huh. I wasn't expecting that pick. I thought you'd go with the first one.
That's second.
Hmm.
And
So
the
you don't
third
like the
one is mine.
Temple?
I don't like Temple. No, I'm not. Well, I mean, it's all right, but it's certainly my least favorite. The
It's a
first one
little
is great.
goofy.
It's
The
weird.
it's a
Um,
little goofy, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a bit political. But
Mm.
whatever. The first one's fine. There's nothing wrong with it at all. I like it. But the third one is just a better film, just better made,
Does have a very good ending too.
and
Very happy,
it
very very
has
happy ending.
Sean Connery playing the uptight, rules-oriented father who actually shags the spy. That is freaking epic, dude. That is epic. Come on, man. The same
Well, they
girl
had to
as his
let James
son.
Bond shag the spy. I mean, come on.
Right, but no, I get the wink wink, tongue in cheek, Harrison's character, Indiana shagged her too. Dude,
Yeah, that's a
claps.
little weird.
No, it's
I don't
brilliant.
know. I don't know, Chester. I don't know about sharing women with your father. I don't know about that.
Well,
That's a little weird.
that's why it was very uncomfortable, weird scene. Genius though. Genius. Of
It was.
course,
It was.
Sean Connery shagged the spy. Of course he did.
Because he's Sean Connery,
Adrian
and every
says,
woman. wanted to have sex with him.
Yeah,
All of them did.
all of
And
them
if your
did.
wife, guys, if your wife said no, she's lying to
She is
you.
lying. Yeah. Hmm.
She doesn't want to hurt your feelings because you cannot compare to the may rest in peace alpha male of our species that was Sean Connery.
It's true. It's true. And the thing is, in real life, I don't think he was that amorous at all.
Nope,
Yeah, I
nope,
think he was a pretty standard monogamous guy. Yeah.
yep.
But
And he had
Adrian
a
agrees.
very high standards when it came to how he wanted his women to behave. To the point that apparently he would slap them if they got out of line.
No, that's not what he was talking about. Everyone takes that out of context, dude. He's saying if, yeah, a woman is hysterical and out of control and is going to cause damage to herself or others, you should, even though you need to control her, you shouldn't use a closed fist. Even in that situation, you should still use an open hand.
Give
That's
her a
what
good
he's
palm
actually
strike.
saying. If a woman is out of control, how do you deal with it? And he's saying even in that case, so he's actually being more chivalrous.
Merciful.
Yes,
Yeah.
but they've
Where I
twisted that,
disagree,
of
I
course.
think sometimes even a woman needs to catch a fish. She's threatening some kids or something. You gotta go, lady. You're gonna
Well,
catch some knuckles if
these
you're a
days,
danger to
men
children.
men think that way, but he's an old-fashioned dude. But anyway, Sean Connery. Yeah,
Well, and
I'm
in fairness, he was a professional boxer, so he
yeah,
punches a
but
woman, he might kill her.
didn't he marry a lady like forever ago and they were together forever?
Yeah,
Isn't he literally
yeah.
the single married actor guy? I think
I'm
he
pretty
is.
sure he was. Yeah.
Um,
Listen, he found his queen. He didn't need any others.
that's true. So it's interesting because he is a major sex symbol, but he really wasn't though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Didn't need that makes Chester, as you know, that makes him even more enticing
oh,
to the
I
women.
know. I know right well. I had to work real hard when I was younger to get women's attention, and did it successfully many times amongst a lot of failure, of course. But as soon
Mhm.
as I was dating a woman long term, or especially when I got married, oh my God, dude.
It's easier.
They come at you because they have this thing in their head. It's like, well, what's she got that I don't have? It's the
Yeah.
competitive. Women are crazy competitive. That's the thing that
Crazy.
a lot of people miss because men
Yeah.
are competitive. Yeah, but in a sports way, right?
Yeah.
Not in a life way. Where a matter of fact,
Not in a ruin your life way. Yeah.
no, because we're more than likely to very quickly put our things aside and get it done, right?
Yes.
Women are crazy competitive, dude. And like I remember, I got married. I was living in Hawaii, and I needed a job, right? So I have a resume that is screams bouncer. So I went and I worked at the Crystal Palace in Honolulu as a
Mhm.
bouncer, and I stayed there for a little while until I got into property management, which is where my life went after that. But I was over there, married dude, got a ring on my finger, and every damn one of those strippers trying to get in my pants, dude. Every single one of them. Ridiculous.
Chester, it's because as you learned, many, many women, I would say probably most, if not all, but I don't want to generalize too much, have a homewrecker fantasy. They want to ruin marriages
It may
because
be,
then they win.
maybe,
I don't
yeah.
know what they win, but they win something. You see, they've won now. They've
Right.
won the game.
Well, my son's coming in the room, so I have to stop this conversation. But no, I remember.
He does speak English, Chester.
I know he does, yeah. But no, I remember I was. I'll give you an example, right? Of the craziness of stripper women and stripper women in general. I was traveling with the saxophone, and I was on a tour, and the Eastern Circuit, and I had was done with that, and I decided I'd go down to New Orleans and try to build up my chops, right? So I went to New Orleans, and I was working down there, and the what
Eric.
I yeah, poor Chester. But anyway, but the problem is in New Orleans, their musicians are a dime a dozen, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to make money. So of course, I just work as a bouncer because I can always make money doing that. I worked in the temple. I also worked at Caliglia's. But anyway, I was working in there, and I'm just kind of working on my saxophone chops, right? That's really what my goal is. I'm trying to
Mhm.
improve. myself, and there's some absolute masters down in New Orleans, right? But
Oh, yeah.
nevertheless, so I wasn't really thinking much about anything, and I started dating with the strippers. Uh, chat, don't date strippers.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't
Mm-mm.
do it.
That's a bad
Okay,
plan.
don't do it. All right. Well, here's the thing. I was dating this stripper, and she and another stripper shared an apartment. It was more of a condo. It was really nice, actually. It was a really nice place. And I ended up going in thirds with them and to pay for the place and making it cheap for everybody, right?
Mhm,
And I'm dating one of the strippers, and we're having our fun. And one day, whilst me and the girl I'm dating are in the bedroom, the other stripper, who was one of the most athletically cut females I've ever seen in my life. This girl was in
mhm.
incredible shape. Stuck her head in the door. We were literally having sex, right? She stuck her head in the door, and she boldly said, "Can I join?" Now, being me, being an exceptionally intelligent man, said nothing. Right.
There are times, Chester, where the right answer is silence.
That's right. I said nothing, and I just looked at the other girl, and she looked over. She looked at me, looked over. She said, "Sure." So I was, I shall do my duty, ma'am. Now here's the thing: months went by, and she joined many, many, many times. Right?
Mhm.
Okay, male fantasy check, bucket list. Right? And
Yeah,
two very athletic bendy girls, sweet. Right?
yeah.
But but here's the thing: I was sitting one day on the couch just waiting because I had to perform that night. And the one I'm not dating, the one that's joined us many, 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 many times, she come
Mhm.
in and she starts playing around. And she said, "Let's go in the other room." I was like, "Okay." I mean, it's not like I haven't done everything possible to her anyway. And then
Yeah.
the one I'm dating comes home, sees us together, rip pissed, dude, pissed. Just Hiroshima, right? And
Yeah.
rah, 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 rah. So I left there. You know, don't date strippers. Women are crazy. Now, as an adult, maybe I can now understand why she was angry. Maybe, possibly.
Hmm,
True story.
that's funny. She didn't mind sharing, Chester, but
Mm.
she didn't feel like you were sharing at that
No,
moment.
I guess not.
You were indulging.
Hmm.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
I logically in my brain there's no damn difference at all, but to
Mm-mm.
women for some reason there's a difference, you
That's
see.
right. That's right. That's right.
All the
And
same pieces and parts are still interchanging, but there's a difference.
and the interesting thing, the other girl, the one I wasn't dating, was a lesbian anyway. Mainly, she preferred
Oh,
women. Just occasionally, she liked a dude. And she and the girl I was dating, before we started dating, were in a relationship anyway.
this
So
is
I'm
my
like,
this just proves my theory. There's no such thing as lesbians, but continue.
well, fair, fair. But I mean, the thing is, the other girl, which I'm really trying hard not to name them, the other girl, it would be easier to do that. But the other girl, she just wanted to bone. She wasn't looking for a relationship. She wasn't hunting me, right?
hmm
She just wanted to bone.
Just just Randy.
Yeah, just Randy. But anyway, this is a good example of how competitive they can be, even
Oh
when
yeah,
there's no competition whatsoever, zero competition. And
yeah.
remember,
They're awful.
they are, yeah. And just keep in mind, I was absolutely made the right choice. I said nothing. Yes,
Oh, Chester, the
it's very.
life you have lived, sir. Is your son still in the room, by the
He
way?
is. He is. I
What
think
is his expression?
I told him that story already. I think. Yeah, he already knows that story. Yeah.
Oh boy,
Well,
your poor son.
yeah, I think my wife kind of knows. I don't know if she knows
Uh oh.
directly, but she know I dated a bunch of girls. She knows that.
She knows you were a big slut. We got it.
No, I was. I absolutely
Big old
was.
man whore.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, hindsight and all, right? It's probably not better. It's probably better not to do that. Yeah,
You think?
I would say. Yeah, better not to be like that. But you know,
The rule is, Chester, don't stick your dick in crazy. And if it's a stripper,
dude,
just assume
dude,
that it's crazy.
that is the rule. Absolute in stone. Do not stick your dick in crazy. This is true.
Yeah,
Listen, everyone,
just
learn from my mistakes
don't do it. It ain't
because I
worth it. No
did
matter
that
how
shit.
beautiful
Oh, I
she
did that
is,
several
no matter
times.
how tight she is, in all ways you can
Mm,
take that
mm,
word, it's
mm,
not
mm,
worth it.
mm-mm,
Because
mm-mm.
here's the truth: one day she's going to get ugly anyway. It happens to all of them.
It
It's
does.
just the way Father
Happens to
Time
us.
works. He's a bastard. So don't do it. It ain't worth it. Just when you see the hot crazy one, just imagine her at 80 and walk
Yeah,
away.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
walk away.
I have dated a few crazies in my life. It's not worth it.
Well, that's what
Although,
happens when you date strippers.
well, I only did that once. I learned, but I did date another girl who was a microbiologist,
Uh-oh.
and she was absolutely slap out her mind, dude. Crazy
Yeah,
girl, just drop dead gorgeous though. Oh my god, a
female
rocket
scientist.
body, and
Of
she
course she
could
was.
give. Oh, dude, her fellatio abilities were legend.
She was the throat goat, is what you're
Oh
telling me.
my god, dude. But crazy as frickin' loon, dude.
Yeah.
But anyway, enough of
Well,
that.
she's a female scientist, Chester. She
Mm,
has to be somewhat crazy.
yeah, and I was always a
She has
bit
man brain.
perplexed because she wasn't that smart.
Well, then you figured out you should have figured out very quickly how she became a scientist.
Yeah, I did, did I? I did. But to be fair, I wasn't really in dating mode anyway. That was just fun. But anyway, enough of the stories. I got to go to work,
You started it.
and it's my fault. And it was fun, but want to end on a little bit of fun because it was very dour. But yeah, entertainment world and the government are in cahoots, and things are getting ugly. That whole article on the British government taking that report and applying it is very disturbing. But
Mm.
nevertheless, hope you all enjoyed. Come back in 2 days. We will be continuing Umbral, and this week we're doing another indie on Drawn and Quartered Ultimate Edition. So come back for that. And then, of course, next week I will try to be in line with the stupid daylight savings crap.
Listen, we've made some headway in getting rid of it. I think a couple states have stopped doing it, so maybe eventually we can
Yeah,
get the rest of the
just
government on board.
stop. There's no reason for it anymore. There was a reason at one time, fine, but we don't need it now. Anyway,
Yeah.
take us out of here.
Chester's favorite one. The master is not the one who completes his training.
Mhm.
The master is the one who never stops.
That's true. Namaste. Later, everybody.